Hi everyone, welcome today to this REC webinar. It's good to see everybody joining. So let's kick off in a few moments with the actual training. But first I will give you a quick preview of what topics we will discuss today. So looking at today's webinar, we will discuss on the slide you can see the topics. The material of racks, we will discuss the introduction to rotomolding as a production process, because most of our racks are rotationally molded. I will give you a few of the technical components and how they are made. Then we will proceed to how to select the right rack case for your application or your customer's application. And then we will quickly take a glance at all the different product groups from SKB. To see what their main benefits are, what kind of market applications there are. And if you want to go in depth on those product lines, we have lots of videos that you can look on or look to at a later stage. We will then have a few accessories to discuss that are available for the racks, some information sources, and then we will end with a Q&A. So if we take a look at the materials of racks, most of our roto racks are made from low density polyethylene, which is like a very, very fine powder. I can show you here. It's really like a flour or any kind of baking product. Here you can see the injection molded material, and you can see it's quite a bit of a grain. This is a very, very fine powdery substance, the low density polyethylene, that will coat the inside of the mold. The thing with the polyethylene is it offers excellent strength and impact resistance. In fact, it's very similar to the polypropylene we use for the injection molded cases in terms of strength and impact resistance, and yet still relatively lightweight. The walls are a bit thicker, so it's a bit heavier, but still relatively lightweight. We use a hot melt color compound, as most of our competitors use a color concentrate. The advantage of a hot melt color compound are that it doesn't weaken the material strength and characteristics as a color concentrate will do. So we're so convinced of the quality of the material and the way they are made that all our roto racks come with an unconditional lifetime warranty for you. So for those of you who are not yet familiar with the rotomolding process, I have a few slides that will show you how it's made. So rotomolding offers excellent strength and impact resistance because it's made on 3 axes in a mold that's made like a fine puzzle with the actual material inside, and it rotates around 3 axes, covering the inside of the female mold. It is done in an oven at a temperature of 600 degrees Fahrenheit or 315 Celsius, and it rotates for about 20-25 minutes. With the 3 axes and the rotation, you can then engineer which parts of the case or the housing you want extra thick on the walls, so to make it extra strong on those parts. Rotomolding doesn't have any stress or weak points as opposed to injection molded because there's no pressure involved. One disadvantage of rotomolding is that the cycle time is relatively long. To put the mold together, put the powder in, put it in the oven, and have the product plated and cooled afterwards and taken from the mold, the whole process takes over 1 hour for one single case, whereas injection molded, the cycle time is about 4 to 5 minutes. So for larger quantities, if we have only one mold for the particular case, the whole lead time is a bit longer on the rotomolding. An advantage of rotomolding, because each case the materials put in separate in the mold, is that custom colors as desert tan or military green are available for relatively low quantities. From 5 pieces upwards, you can have it in a different color that is standard at SKB. So if we look at the images of rotomolding to explain the process by the images, here you can see the mold is assembled. All the pieces are put together except the front plate. And on the next slide, and he puts the material in. On the next slide, you can see the mold goes into the oven. There's about 5 or 6 molds on the roto machine, and then it keeps turning around all 3 axes. On the next slide, you can see after the production and after the cycle time inside the oven. You can see how he will disassemble the mold on the next slide. And it's done at first taking the front end off, and then on the next slide you can see one of the side pieces from the mold coming off, and the whole mold will be disassembled. Now then the rack case is taken out from the mold, and the lid is coming out from the mold, and they are put together to make sure the shrinking process of the case is exactly the same. That means that the lid will also stay perfect on the housing of the case. It also means that lids are not completely interchangeable, so one lid from one production case cannot possibly go on the lid of another production case. So I will show you a few of the components used and how the case housing is kept watertight. So, because after the housing is made, we have a few assemblies on the case, which for instance is a handle or is a latch. So here you can see, for instance, for the shock absorbers for the 19-inch racks or for the wheels on the case, we use this screw thread cylinder, so you can see inside probably, and that is done placed in the mold, so the actual overmolding is done on the outside or on the inside, better to speak. So here you can see where that screw thread from the wheel is molded in, and on this side you can see the screw thread itself. So this way it ensures that the case is sealed, so no water can go in. So the material is completely covered on the inside. That's done with the in-molded component like a screw thread, or a similar one like this butterfly. This is also molded in the plastic housing of the case, and this sides, the butterflies will keep it into place, and the latches are riveted on the roto rack case. So speaking of the accessories, we or the things, the components mounted on the case, the handles are made from ABS injection molded plastic, and they are covered with a thermoplastic elastomer for a soft grip. So each of these handles that are used on all our shock rack cases can carry up to 50 kilos in terms of weight capacity. Now there's multiple handles, and 50 kilos is actually more than a person can carry. Should there be excessive weight, there's also the possibility to mount a stainless steel eye, to mount it with a truck or a crane on the case. But the handles are up to 50 kilograms, the spring-loaded handles. The non-shock racks typically have a flush mount handle that is molded in the case. So it's not a spring lift handle, it's a flush mount handle, fixed flush mount molded into the case. On the roto racks, all the roto racks, the shock racks and the non-shock racks come with black powder-coated stainless steel butterfly latches that are mounted on the case. So that covers the components we mount. There's also a pressure relief valve that is on the 3RR, the 3RS, and the 3 SKB shock racks, more of the military, security, police shock racks. It's a pressure relief valve, and the way it works is that if there's a pressure difference between the outside of the case and the inside of the case, or an ambient difference, with 1 pressure per square inch, so 1 psi difference, there's a spring in and it will open the valve so the air can flow freely from outside to inside, or opposite, depending upon the pressure. So the only thing that is actually mounted in the case are the handles, and they are closed on the inside with a sealing washer. So if the handles are mounted in the case, there's a hole that goes through the housing of the case. So you have a screw, you have the washer, and on the other side you also have a screw to fix it on the inside. So that is a bit about the rotomolding of the products, how the components are mounted on the products, and let us look now at how to select the right rack case for your application. So we have, as you can see on the image, and I've taken quite a few here as well, we have a lot of different product lines for different applications. So the first question you want to ask when selecting a rack for your customer is how will the cases travel? So on the slide you can see the 3 SKD shock racks on the next slide and the roto rack, and there you can go to the slide. It is how the cases will travel. the prices of the equipment inside or the cost of the operation. So for example, if you have a relatively light device that you want to mount in a 19-inch rack, and you're traveling with the case in the back of your car, local travel, no heavy duty, you can opt for a non-shock rack. So then we have a few product lines in that area. If you put a lot of weight inside the case, so over 25 kilos, if the cases are being shipped with a third-party shipper, as we all know, they're not very delicate in handling your equipment. They throw it about, it gets dropped. So in that case, you want to opt for a shock rack. And so the other question then is, how many height units do you need? Because you will bring probably a server or a power supply, or you can bring a video mixer with a monitor inside the rack. So the next question is, how many height units will you occupy or will you need? One height unit is 1.75 inch or about 4.45 centimeters. And that's an industry standard, a global standard, and all the OEMers of those devices will state how many height unit it occupies in one of the racks. Then the next question will be the depth of the equipment. So in our specification, we always talk about the rail-to-rail depth, which is measured from the front end of the rail to the back end of the 19-inch rack rail. That is the depth and the rackable depth we provide. In that way, you can screw it on both ends of the racks for an optimal weight balance and construction inside the case. If your equipment is a bit deeper or less deeper, I will talk about a few accessories you can use to still mount your equipment in a right way in the case without putting too much stress on the rack itself. So in some cases, the lid can provide extra space, or we have options in case your device is a bit shorter than the actual rackable depth. Then the next question you will then see is if you need it like weatherproof, if you need wheels on the case, and those questions are kind of covered with the different product groups we offer. So the first three questions will determine, okay, do you need shock or non-shock? What is the height of the case and the depth of the case? And afterwards, you can look at the specific product lines in terms of, okay, is it waterproof, mil certified, and so on and so on. So, well, the top end or the pinnacle of our rack cases are the 3RR and 3RS shock rack cases. They come in three different depths, in 20-inch rackable depth, in 24-inch rackable depth, and in 30-inch rackable depth. And the available height units are from 3 height units like this one, all the way up to 14 height units. It's the only product line that is completely mil certified 810G, independently tested, and the certification we have by a third laboratory. And the mil standard 810G covers altitude, a drop test, an immersion test, a salt spray, a vibration test. So it's a very stringent battery of tests that is performed on the case. So the 3RR has a completely removable rack. So the rack is mountable and fixed inside of the case, and it's completely removable from the frame. I can't take it out here because of space limitations. I hope you forgive me for that, but the rack can be moved completely outside of the case, which is kind of convenient if you do a lot of changing from the equipment. It will save you no more hassling with screws and cables in tight places. Just remove the rack, change the equipment, slide it back in and fix it. The 3RS has static shock racks, meaning they are fixed inside on the shock mounts and can't be taken out. It's a little bit more budget friendly, and it's otherwise completely the same case. So they're IP67 waterproof, mil 810G certified, and they are feature packed and the best cases inside the market. For more in-depth information on this specific product line, take a look at the videos we have on YouTube. Another shock rack we have, which is also for police security and a bit into military, although it doesn't have the independent certifications, it is made with military specs in mind, is the 3 SKB series, and they provide great value for money, especially when you compare them to the 3RR or 3RS. They are a little bit more budget friendly. So one unique feature that no one else has in the market, as you can see on the image, is the hinge doors. You can open them, swing the doors back, and put them to the side of the case without taking the lids completely off, losing the lid, having them floating about somewhere in the space. So just open the lid, slide it open, and put it to the side of the case. All the 3 SKBs come with a caster kit included, and you can slide the casters into the metal plate on the bottom, and a pin will shoot into place and keep the caster firmly fixed on the case itself. So another feature you can see on the top of the case on the picture, 4 squares on a square on each corner. So they're also stackable with the casters attached. So you can just put one 3 SKB shock rack on another one, and the casters will go in the cavities on each corners for ease of use. They come in 3 different rackable depths, 24, 28, and 30 inch, and available height units are from 4 to 16 height units. So typically, when you look at the depth of a rack, communication equipment like routers, switches, that kind of stuff, it's typically about 20 inch a rackable depth. If you look more at servers, power supplies, storage devices, they are up to 28 to 30 inch rackable depth that you require for such devices. The next product line is a 1 SKB shock rack, and they are only available in 20 inch rackable depth, and the available height units are from 4 to 16, but they come in a rolling or a non-rolling version. And so the difference is a bit in the design, so they're not interstackable with each other. So you can stack a 1 SKB rolling rack with a 1 SKB rolling rack, and a 1 SKB non-shock rolling rack only with a 1 SKB non-shock rolling rack. The handles on those cases are similar if you look at the 1 SKB shock rack on the left side of the image, and I will see that the handle is just like on the Roto non-shock racks. It's flush mount. It's a bit of a different material, but it's flush mount on the side. I will show you a bit on the shallow rack here how that looks. So, and that is similar with the 1 SKB Roto racks, although it's made from a different material, but the flush mount handle principle is the same, as you can see on the slide. The next product groups are these. These are the non-shock racks, and they come in 3 versions. On the bottom, you can see the 1 SKB rolling non-shock rack. Then it's the standard Roto non-shock rack, and this one is the same as on the image, the shallow rack. So they are available in different rackable depth. The shallow inch is 10.5 inch rackable depth, and the rolling and non-rolling non-shock Roto racks are up to 17.8 inches rackable depth. They even come as well, like the shock racks, with a lifetime warranty. And for the standard Roto rack, there is a optional caster board available for easy transport. So all these Roto racks are interstackable with each other. So the shallow rack is stackable with the Roto rack and the rolling Roto rack. So that makes secure transport or storage available. So on the next slide, there's another product group that is like the fly racks. And just allow me to drop from the screen for a slight moment. I will show you what the case is. So the fly racks are basically a separate injection molded rack. Inside are waterproof I-series cases. And these were designed and made as kind of a budgetary option compared to a shock rack. And so the buffering from the rack is done with the foam corner pieces that keep the rack into place and also provide some cushioning for impact. We have the same corner pieces in the bottom. So once the rack is mounted in the waterproof I-series case, it is completely fixed firm with the cushioning on each end. So the ABS injection molded fly rack is available in several depths. The most commonly we have is a 30 inch rackable depth in height units from 2 to 6 available. So once you mount the equipment, you put it in the case, you travel, you come to your location where you have to do some video editing or audio editing. You take the rack mount off, connect it to your laptop, screen, computer, and can start working. And once you're done and travel back, you just mount it back inside the case, close the lid, and you're good to go. All the fly racks come with TSA locks and a integrated one-touch pull handle and wheels. So you don't actually have to carry the equipment yourself. So back to the setup here. A very specific product we have is the Studio Flyer, and we have two versions. This is a bit outdated because the 4U is also waterproof injection molded that was launched this year, and these are great because you can mount a working device on top, connect it with the rack mountable devices in the bottom, and that makes for very easy working everywhere. It's like a portable workstation. The 2U version is an approved airline carry-on size, meaning you are allowed to take it inside the cabin with you to make sure nobody mistreats or abuses your case and contents. The last product group I just want to highlight quickly are the soft racks. I don't have one here. It's a very specific application. It's a budget option for a rack. You see a lot of them, for instance, when you watch the news gathering, people who do one-on-one or maybe with a sound guy working on location. They carry one of the soft racks on their bag or with them. It is comfortable for light and local travel when you keep your contents in your own possessions. It's the only case that doesn't come with a lifetime warranty. It comes with a 1-year warranty. And it's a wood covered with a nylon fabric. So those are in a quick glance the product lines for the racks we have. Let's take a look at a few of the accessories, and then we will go to some Q&A. So the shock mounts that you can see here in the case, they are available for a payload up to 68 kilograms. And the thing with the weight inside the case is that the firmness of the rubber needs to match the equipment and the weight of the equipment you have for an optimal vibration balance, so that the vibration isn't passed on to the equipment. There is an optional payload kit available to extend the weight up to 136 kilograms, and they are field installable. It takes a bit of time. It's not done in 5 minutes, but they are field installable. So if you look at the weight balancing of the equipment inside a rack, on the next slide you can see our support rails. You mount them on the side of the rack inside on both ends of the racks, and it's a good solution for when your equipment can't be screwed on both ends of the rack. This will keep the stress from the rack itself as the weight of your device is loaded on those support rails. And they're really easy, field replaceable. It's installable. It's done in about 3 to 4 minutes. This is recommended when your equipment doesn't have the complete depth that the rack has, so you can mount it in a secure way. Another option for that we don't provide is a bracket. You can screw a bracket on the end of your equipment and screw the end plates of the bracket onto the rack. They are third-party available. Another option is a caster board, and we have the 3RR RCB, which is for these. They come with wheels integrated on the deeper models. The 20-inch model doesn't have wheel integrated, so you can use a caster board for that one. The one SKB RCB is for all the rotor racks, and the one SKB 1916 is for, as you can see by the X pattern, for the shock rack 20-inch deep. Then there's a few more accessories for your cables and devices. It's a pouch. You can see here, if it works, you can mount it inside the lid, and it's great for storing cables, connectors, manuals, and all those kind of less light accessories. So you can easily bring them with the equipment and the gear to the gig or to the location where you need the shock rack. Then there's a few more accessories. We have a rack drawer available or Velcro shelf, but there's a lot of third-party accessories to help you customize the 19-inch rack case for your application. It can be monitor shelves, brackets to keep the weight and the equipment fixed to both ends of the racks. Lots of different options. So if we look at some information sources after this webinar where you can find the information, from all the product lines, we have a specific rack leaflet. It tells you the benefits, it tells you the specifications, the measurements, the weight. We have them digital, but we also provide them hard copy. If you want them, just drop us an email to the sales team and we can ship the leaflets to you. If you want to see them digital, I will show you later in our partner portal where you can download them or have a glance at them. So it's for all product lines and all sizes, features, and dimensions. So a few more information sources is we have a rack brochure that has an application chart and it has a built-in rack selector. So by answering 7 questions, you can select the right rack for your application, meaning shock or non-shock, how the cases will travel, mill standard or not, waterproof or not, wheels integrated or not, those kind of questions, and you can answer them with that rack selector that is in the brochure. It also has an application chart in terms of which product line is sold most frequently to a certain market. Like the 3RR, it's sold a lot into the military, security, and a bit into broadcast. These rotor racks are a lot sold into pro audio, music, a bit into broadcast. So each product line has a different market application. We suggest the most typical applications. So then we have a rack selector that's on our website. If you don't want to do it manual in the brochure, you can do it digital on our website. If you go to our website and go to racks, on the right hand side, there's a filter that provides you with all the possible options. We also have a partner portal. If you don't have a login, give us a call or drop us an email, and we will be happy to provide you with the login details. And if you log in, then you will see on the next slide what we have. We have all the brochures and the promotional material. We have data sets for the products. We have the images you can download there for each product line. There is a technical guide doing some field installation of a shock absorber kit, or for the I series, for instance, with a how to replace a handle or a latch. There's also the videos of all of our rack product groups, so you can look at a specific video for the 20-inch for the rotor rack or the studio flyer. We have lots of options there as well. And that will cover most of the training, so we can do a bit of a Q&A if someone has any questions. The key takeaways is the Rotomolder process, so how you can make an indestructible and strong case. The great range of products we have for all market and all applications we have an option. How to select that right rack case for the application. Lots of content that we have available for your support on our website. Just have a look, and we can if it's not there, we can always try and tailor make something for you. And we can do some more questions in an advanced training if that's something you would be interested in. So if there are some questions, feel free to ask them now. If it's a lot of information and you want to think a bit more afterwards, then let me know. You can contact us by email or by telephone. We're more than happy to help you. So a question is how you can make the walls thicker and the reinforcement on the cases. Because the rotomolding is done with the powder or the material inside the mold and it rotates around 3 axes, you can then look at how you can make the material thicker in the corners, or make a bit of a different construction that strengthens the impact. So I can show you here that this is something typically you can't get from an injection mold. Why you can get like those double wall constructions that you see here is because the mold is put together like a puzzle. So it's a female mold and the molds are put together in a puzzle, and unlike injection mold where you have to take the case from the mold and you need some gradient to be able to release it from the mold, with rotomolding you can take the puzzle apart, and that's why you can have constructions like you see here with some double walls or thicker walls in some areas. So if there's any more questions, feel free to ask them. If it comes to mind later, you can rewatch the webinar. You can then ask your questions there again as well. And those questions will be emailed automatically to us so we can answer them at a later stage. Yeah, another question is coming about the customizing. So we have some components that are standard available. So for instance, we have the pressure relief valve for the cases, but we can also do customizing of the question for instance, a humidity valve. So we can't do that by the piece, but if it's for a project and you want a humidity indicator fitted on the case, that kind of stuff is very readily available. And the thing with rotomolding is that it's a bit easier to do some adjustments in the mold to be able to make another component, mold it in, or put a different handle on, that kind of stuff. It doesn't come by the piece, but for relatively smaller quantities compared to injection molded, customizing is available. The same applies for what I mentioned earlier, having your case in a different color, like desert tan or olive drab, because the material is put in the mold one-on-one in each cycle. Therefore, it's a lot easier to do a different color for the case. Whereas with injection molding, as these ones, you really have to get the old color out from the machine, and you need to do a complete run. So you can't really do it for 3 or 4 or 5 pieces. You need a lot more quantities to do it with injection molding. For the I series, it's typically 100 cases for the larger sizes and 250 cases for the smaller sizes. But with rotomolded racks or the 3R series, it's possible for a small, a relatively small quantity, like 3 to 5 pieces. Okay, that covers it for today. If there are some more questions that come to mind later, feel free to ask us. You can rewatch the webinar and type it on the right-hand side of your screen. Those questions will be automatically emailed to us, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. And also you can rewatch the webinar if it was too much information for you from the beginning. So thanks everybody for watching. Good luck in selling the products, and if you need any help or support from us, we are there to help you. So thanks for joining and have a good day.